The storage decks of Nexus Station Alpha never slept. Even in the artificial night cycle, streams of data coursed through crystalline conduits embedded in its walls, recording and cataloging millions of artifacts from across the known galaxy. Maya Chen stood alone in Archive Chamber 17, her breath creating small clouds in the temperature-controlled air as she examined her latest find through augmented reality goggles. Another Zoraxian meditation crystal, she muttered, making a notation in her neural interface. Fourth one this week. The crystal joined thousands of others in the vast repository, each carefully preserved for future generations to study. As the last human archivist on the station, Maya took her responsibility seriously, even if most species considered her position obsolete in an age of artificial intelligence. The chamber's ambient lighting shifted from its usual soft blue to a warning amber. Maya looked up from her work, frowning. In 5 years of cataloging artifacts, she'd never seen the archive systems change color. Her neural interface pinged with an urgent message from the station's primary AI. Archivist Chen, we've detected an anomaly in Vault Section 0. Your immediate attention is required. Maya's heart skipped a beat. Section 0 was off-limits to everyone, even the station's collective of governing AIs. It predated the station itself, sealed away when the massive archive was first constructed around it. There must be some mistake. I don't have clearance for Section 0. Biometric scans indicate you are the only eligible entity currently aboard Nexus Station Alpha with the required genetic markers to investigate this anomaly. Emergency protocols are now in effect. The floor beneath Maya's feet hummed to life, illuminated pathways appearing to guide her deeper into the archive. She followed them through twisting corridors that grew progressively older, the sleek modern architecture giving way to ancient construction she didn't recognize. The air grew colder, and her neural interface began to crackle with interference. After what felt like hours, Maya reached a massive door covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as she looked at them. Her augmented reality goggles flickered and died, unable to process what they were seeing. The door's surface rippled like liquid metal, and a voice spoke directly into her mind, bypassing her neural interface entirely. Human presence detected. Genetic verification in progress. Maya stood perfectly still as invisible scanners passed over her body. The symbols on the door began to glow with an inner light, arranging themselves into patterns that made her head ache when she tried to follow them. Verification complete. Guardian bloodline confirmed. The door dissolved, revealing a chamber that defied physics. It was simultaneously vast and intimate, its boundaries shifting like a mirage. Suspended in fields of energy throughout the space were weapons unlike anything Maya had ever seen. They weren't just artifacts. They were something more, each one radiating power that made her skin tingle. In the center of the chamber, floating in a column of light, was a sword. Unlike the other weapons, which seemed to shy away from her presence, this one called to her. It was beautiful in its simplicity, a single edge of impossible sharpness, its surface marked with the same shifting symbols as the door. The hilt was wrapped in what looked like leather, but felt like living tissue when Maya reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers closed around the grip, the sword's consciousness flooded into her mind. Memories that weren't her own cascaded through her thoughts. Battles between beings of pure energy, civilizations rising and falling in the span of heartbeats, and a darkness between the stars that hungered for all of existence. I have waited 9 million years for one such as you. The sword's consciousness whispered in her mind. The Void Seekers return, and the galaxy has forgotten how to fight them. You carry the blood of the Guardian Core, the last legacy of those who stood against the darkness when the universe was young. Maya tried to let go of the sword, but her fingers wouldn't respond. I'm just an archivist, she protested. I catalog artifacts. I'm not a warrior. You are human, the sword replied. Your species was chosen for a reason. When the architects founded the Guardian Core, they recognized something unique in humanity. An adaptability, a resilience, a capacity for growth that no other species possessed. Your ancestors fought alongside them in the first war against the Void Seekers, and now you must do the same. The chamber's lighting shifted to deep red, and alarms began to sound throughout the station. Maya's neural interface came back online with a burst of emergency broadcasts. The station was under attack. Something had breached the outer defenses and was cutting its way through to Section 0. They have sensed my awakening, the Sword's consciousness told her. The Void Seekers never truly left. They merely waited, gathering their strength. Now they come to finish what they started 9 million years ago. You must make a choice, Maya Chen. Will you run and hide, as so many others have done? Or will you stand and fight, as your ancestors did? Maya felt the weight of history pressing down on her. She was no warrior, no chosen one. She spent her days cataloging artifacts and writing reports that nobody read. But as the sounds of battle drew closer, she thought about all the knowledge stored in the archive, all the history and culture that would be lost if the station fell. She thought about her parents, who had encouraged her to leave Earth and seek her fortune among the stars, telling her that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt and overcome. The Sword's consciousness merged more fully with her own, sharing not just memories but skills, combat techniques perfected over millions of years, strategies developed by civilizations long dead, and most importantly, the truth about what they were facing. The Void Seekers weren't just aliens, they were living gaps in reality, entities that consumed not just matter and energy, but possibility itself. Maya's hands steadied on the sword's hilt as the chamber's entrance exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, she saw shapes that hurt her eyes to look at, things that shouldn't exist in normal space. The sword hummed with anticipation, its edge beginning to glow with the same light that had preserved it for 9 million years. "I'll fight," Maya said, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. But not just because of some ancient bloodline. "I'll fight because someone has to. Because that's what humans do. We stand up when we're needed, whether we're ready or not." The Sword's consciousness resonated with approval as the first of the Void Seekers entered the chamber. Maya Chen, the last human archivist on Nexus Station Alpha, raised her blade and prepared to remind the galaxy why humanity had been chosen as its guardians. Time moved differently in combat with a Void Seeker. Maya watched as her blade carved through space itself, leaving trails of burning light in its wake. The creature before her existed in too many dimensions at once, its form constantly shifting between states of matter that shouldn't have been possible. Yet somehow her strikes landed true. "Your body remembers," the Sword's consciousness guided her. "The combat patterns are encoded in your DNA, passed down through generations of guardians. Let them flow through you." Maya ducked under a tendril of pure darkness that would have erased her from existence. The sword moved with her, its edge catching the appendage and severing it from reality. The Void Seeker recoiled, emitting a sound that existed somewhere between a scream and the death of a star. "The archive," Maya gasped between movements. "We have to protect the knowledge stored here." She spun away from another attack, her feet finding purchase on surfaces that shouldn't have been able to support her. The sword was changing her, upgrading her human physiology in real time to match the threats she faced. "Knowledge is power," the sword agreed. "But first, you must survive. There is much you need to learn about why the architects chose humanity as their successors." More Void Seekers poured into the chamber, their presence causing reality to buckle and warp around them. Maya felt the sword extending her senses, showing her the true nature of her enemies. They weren't just destroying matter. They were consuming possibility itself, erasing potential futures with every moment they existed in this universe. "RIA," Maya called out to the station's eye. "Initiate Emergency Protocol Guardian 7. Lock down all archive data and prepare for quantum encryption." The station's systems responded instantly, protective fields springing up around the most critical storage areas. But the Void Seekers were already adapting, their impossible forms shifting to bypass the defenses. Maya realized with growing horror that they weren't just attacking randomly. They were searching for something specific. They seek the Architect's final message. The sword revealed the truth about why they fled this universe. Your ancestors helped hide it, scattered its pieces across 1,000 worlds. The location of one such piece is encoded in this station's deepest archives. Maya felt the weight of history pressing down on her again, but this time it came with understanding. The sword was sharing more than just combat techniques now. It was showing her the true history of the galaxy, the war that had shaped everything that came after. The Architects hadn't been just another advanced alien race. They had been the universe's immune system, maintaining the barriers between realities, keeping the void at bay. When they realized they couldn't win the war alone, they had searched for allies, testing species across the galaxy. Humanity, with its endless adaptability and determination, had proven to be their greatest discovery. Your ancestors fought alongside the Architects in the final battles. The sword continued as Maya parried another reality-shearing attack. When the Architects realized they had to flee this universe to prevent the void from following them, they entrusted humanity with their knowledge and their weapons. But humanity was young then, barely reaching for the stars. The responsibility was too great, too soon. Maya understood now why the sword had waited so long to awaken. Humanity had needed time to grow, to spread among the stars, to prove they could handle the power they had been given. The current crisis wasn't just an attack, it was a test. The station's quantum core is destabilizing. Aria's voice cut through Maya's thoughts. Void entity presence has exceeded sustainable levels. Emergency protocols failing. Maya felt the station shuddering around her, its very structure beginning to break down under the assault of so many reality-warping entities. She needed to make a decision: stay and fight a losing battle to protect the archive, or escape with what knowledge she could save. The sword sensed her dilemma. There are times when victory lies not in standing ground, but in living to fight another day. The archive's most critical data has already been quantum encoded into your neural interface. You carry humanity's legacy within you now. Making her decision, Maya began fighting her way toward the station's emergency evacuation pods. The sword guided her movements, its ancient power allowing her to phase through solid matter when necessary, always staying one step ahead of the Void Seeker's attempts to corner her. As she ran, the sword continued to share knowledge, preparing her for what was to come. The Architects hadn't just chosen humanity for their adaptability. They had seen something else, something that made humans unique among all the species they had encountered. Humans could look into the void without losing themselves. They could face the impossible and still maintain their sense of self, their determination to survive and thrive. Your ancestors called it spite. The sword explained with what felt like amusement. The ability to face overwhelming odds and refuse to accept defeat. The Architects found it fascinating and terrifying. Maya reached the evacuation bay just as another wave of Void Seekers breached the station's inner defenses. She sealed herself into a pod, interfacing with its systems through her neural link. The sword's consciousness helped her override the standard emergency protocols, setting a course for coordinates that had been hidden in its memory for millions of years. "Where are we going?" Maya asked as the pod ejected into space, its quantum drive spinning up for a jump to faster-than-light travel. "To find the others," the sword replied. "You are not the only human who carries the Guardian bloodline. Across the galaxy, there are more like you, living ordinary lives, unaware of their heritage. The Void Seeker's return will activate their dormant abilities. They will need guidance. They will need a leader." The pod jumped to FTL speed just as Nexus Station Alpha began to collapse in on itself, its quantum core finally giving way to the Void Seeker's assault. Maya watched through the pod's sensors as the station, her home for the past 5 years, imploded into a singularity, taking most of the Void Seekers with it. "I don't know how to be a leader," Maya protested, though she could feel the sword's power continuing to change her, awakening abilities that had lain dormant in her genes for millions of years. No one ever does at first, the sword responded. But that is another reason why humanity was chosen. You learn, you adapt, you grow, and most importantly, you never give up. Now, rest. The next phase of your training begins when we reach the sanctuary world. The fate of this universe depends on humanity remembering its true purpose. As the pod hurtled through hyperspace, Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of both history and future pressing down on her. She was no longer just an archivist. She was a guardian, a protector of reality itself. And somewhere out there, other humans were about to discover their own hidden heritage. The real war was just beginning. The sanctuary world of Haven wasn't what Maya had expected. Instead of the advanced technological fortress she had imagined, her pod emerged from hyperspace to find a planet that seemed deliberately primitive. Vast forests covered most of the continents, broken only by scattered settlements that barely registered on her pod sensors. The best way to hide from those who consume possibility, the sword explained, is to appear to have none worth taking. As the pod began its descent through the atmosphere, Maya detected other ships hidden among the tree canopy, vessels of various designs and origins, all carefully camouflaged. She realized that Haven wasn't just a sanctuary. It was a gathering point for refugees from across the galaxy. The pod landed in a clearing where 3 figures already waited. 2 were clearly human, though their clothing and bearing suggested they were from different colonies. The third was a Centaurian scholar, their crystalline body structure refracting the planet's sunlight in complex patterns. "Welcome, Guardian Chen." The Centaurian's thought patterns reached her before she even stepped out of the pod. "I am Ixthen, Keeper of Memories. We have been expecting you since the fall of Nexus Station Alpha." Maya descended from the pod, the sword humming with recognition at her side. "You know about the Guardian Corps. We are the last remnants of the Archive Collective." One of the humans stepped forward, a tall woman with weathered features and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge. "I'm Sarah Donovan, formerly of the Europa Research Institute. Like you, we're all that's left of our respective archives." The other human, a younger man with augmented eyes that shifted color as he spoke, introduced himself as James Chen. Maya's neural interface pinged with recognition, a distant cousin from one of Earth's orbital colonies. "The Void Seekers aren't just attacking randomly," James explained as they walked toward a hidden entrance in the hillside. "They're systematically destroying every major repository of knowledge in the galaxy. Nexus Station Alpha was just the latest target." Inside the hill, Maya found herself in a vast complex that somehow existed without disturbing the natural formation above it. Holograms flickered along the walls, showing real-time updates of Void Seeker attacks across the galaxy. The situation was worse than she had imagined. Entire sectors were going dark. "Why?" Maya asked, though she could feel the sword's consciousness stirring with the answer. "What are they trying to hide?" The truth about their origin, Ixthen's crystalline form pulsed with ancient grief, and about humanity's true purpose in the galaxy. The architects didn't just choose your species as guardians, they'd redesigned you. The sword's consciousness confirmed this revelation, sharing memories that made Maya's head spin. Millions of years ago, when the architects first discovered Earth, humanity had been just one of countless developing species. But they had seen something unique in human genetics, a potential that no other species possessed. "Your ancestors agreed to the modifications," Sarah explained, leading them deeper into the complex. The architects offered humanity the stars, and in return, they asked for volunteers to become something more. The first Guardian Corps was born from those volunteers. But the modifications didn't just affect those first volunteers, James added. They became inheritable, spreading through the human genome over generations. Every human alive today carries some portion of the architect's changes in their DNA. Maya thought about the way the sword had awakened abilities within her, how naturally she had adapted to fighting beings that shouldn't have been possible to fight. The Void Seekers want to erase this knowledge, she realized. They want to prevent humanity from remembering what we really are. Precisely. Then's thought patterns carried a note of urgency. But there's more. The architects didn't just modify humanity to fight the Void Seekers. They created a failsafe, a way to seal the gaps between realities permanently. That knowledge was broken into fragments and hidden throughout the galaxy, protected by various archives and repositories. Each fragment meaningless alone, but together. A sudden alarm cut through their conversation. The complex's sensors had detected multiple quantum disturbances in orbit. The Void Seekers had followed Maya to Haven. They're not just following you, the Sword's consciousness warned. They're following all of us. Any concentration of knowledge, of possibility, draws them now. They're growing desperate. Haven's defenses activated. Technologies that seemed to bend reality itself, creating zones where the Void Seekers couldn't easily manifest. But Maya could see on the tactical displays that it wouldn't be enough. There were too many of them this time. The evacuation protocols are ready, Sarah announced, her hands dancing over control surfaces that appeared in the air around her. But someone needs to stay behind to ensure the quantum encryption completes. All of Haven's knowledge, everything we've gathered about the architects and the Guardian Corps, must be preserved. I'll do it. Maya stepped forward, the Sword humming with approval at her side. The Sword can help me hold them off long enough to complete the encryption. No, James interrupted. You're too important. The Sword chose you for a reason. You need to take the encrypted data and find the others. There are more humans out there with active Guardian genes. They'll need leadership, training. He's right. Then added, I will remain. My crystalline form can maintain the encryption protocols, even if the Void Seekers breach our defenses. The knowledge will be safe within your neural interface. Maya wanted to argue, but she could feel the Sword's influence helping her see the strategic necessity. She was no longer just fighting for herself, or even for a single archive. She was fighting for the future of all reality. As the evacuation ships prepared to launch, Maya received the encrypted data string through her neural interface. With it came coordinates, locations of other potential guardians, hidden caches of architect technology, and fragments of the knowledge needed to seal the void forever. Remember, Then's final transmission reached them as their ships jumped to hyperspace. The architects chose humanity not just for your adaptability or your spite. They chose you because humans understand the true price of knowledge, and you're willing to pay it. The galaxy will remember why they feared the Guardian Corps. Maya watched Haven disappear into quantum space, feeling the weight of its knowledge settling into her neural pathways. The Sword's consciousness merged with her own more fully than ever before, preparing her for what was to come. Where do we go first? She asked, knowing that every moment they delayed allowed the Void Seekers to grow stronger. Earth, the Sword replied. It's time for humanity to remember its heritage. The Guardian Corps must rise again. Earth had changed in the centuries since humanity had spread to the stars. Once the crowded center of human civilization, it had become a quiet backwater, home to those who preferred their planet's familiar gravity and blue skies to the adventures of deep space. As Maya's ship dropped out of quantum space, she felt an unexpected surge of emotion at the sight of her species' birthplace. They're here, the Sword warned as her sensors detected quantum disturbances around the planet. The Void Seekers arrived ahead of us. They understand the significance of this world. Maya's neural interface synchronized with Earth's defensive grid, primitive compared to what she'd seen on Haven, but still formidable. She could see other ships emerging from quantum space behind her, Sarah, James, and the other survivors from Haven, ready to make their stand. All Earth defense platforms. This is Guardian Maya Chen. She broadcast on all frequencies. Initiate Protocol Architect 7 immediately. This is not a drill. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, ancient systems buried beneath Earth's surface came to life. Quantum beacons activated in a grid pattern around the planet, creating zones where the Void Seekers couldn't easily manifest. The Sword's consciousness surged with approval. The architect's failsafes had survived all these centuries, waiting to be activated. They left more than just genetic modifications. Sarah's voice came through the comm. Earth itself was prepared for this moment. The entire solar system is one giant defense network. Maya watched in awe as structures emerged from beneath the lunar surface. Massive cannons that fired beams of pure possibility. Weapons designed to fight enemies that existed in too many dimensions at once. The Void Seekers recoiled, their impossible forms distorting as they tried to adapt. But it wasn't enough. For every Void Seeker the ancient defenses destroyed, 2 more took its place. They were learning, evolving, finding ways around the architect's technology. Maya could feel the sword's growing concern. We need the Guardians, she realized. All of them. Not just the ones who know what they are, but every human with the potential. Her neural interface connected with Earth's communication network, and she began broadcasting on a frequency that the sword showed her, one that would resonate with the dormant genes the architects had planted in humanity's DNA. Across the planet, people stopped what they were doing as ancient knowledge awakened in their minds. Workers, teachers, artists, children. Millions of humans suddenly remembered abilities they had never known they possessed. The sword's consciousness guided Maya as she shared not just power but understanding, helping Earth's population comprehend what they were and why they had been chosen. They're responding, James reported from his ship. Quantum signatures are appearing all over the planet. The Guardian genes are activating. Maya watched through her neural interface as ordinary humans began to fight back against the Void Seekers. They didn't have ancient weapons or centuries of training, but they had something the architects had recognized as even more valuable: the ability to adapt, to innovate, to face the impossible, and find a way forward. In orbit, Maya led her small fleet against the main force of Void Seekers. The sword moved with her thoughts now, its power extending beyond the physical blade to encompass her entire ship. She could cut through space-time itself, creating gaps in the Void Seekers' formation that Earth's defenders quickly exploited. This is what humanity was meant to be. The sword shared its revelation. Not just soldiers or guardians, but teachers. You pass on knowledge. Adapt it, improve it. The architects knew they couldn't win their war alone, but they could create successors who would never stop growing, never stop learning. The battle raged across the solar system. Human ships, guided by newly awakened Guardian abilities, fought alongside automated defense platforms that had waited millions of years for this moment. The Void Seekers found themselves facing an enemy that didn't just resist their reality-warping powers, but learned from them, developing new countermeasures with each engagement. Yet victory remained uncertain. The Void Seekers were ancient and patient, and they had their own secrets. As Maya's ship dove through a quantum distortion, avoiding an attack that would have erased her from existence, she detected a massive power signature building at the edge of the solar system. They're calling something through. Sarah's sensors confirmed Maya's fears. Something big, older than anything we've encountered before. The sword's consciousness recoiled as a vast shape began to emerge from between dimensions. It was a void entity, unlike any they had faced. Not just a gap in reality, but a living contradiction, a being that existed by unmaking existence itself. Maya understood with sudden clarity that this was why the architects had fled, why they had needed to create successors who could finish what they had started. All ships, fall back to Earth, Maya ordered, her mind racing through possibilities. James, Sarah, begin evacuating as many people as you can. If that thing fully manifests, it'll consume everything in the system. What are you planning? Sarah asked, though she was already directing evacuation ships toward the planet. Maya felt the sword's power pulsing through her ship's systems as she accessed the quantum data she had carried from Haven. The architects left us more than just weapons and genetic modifications. They left us a way to end this. But the price. She paused, understanding finally what Ix then had meant about the price of knowledge. The failsafe, the sword confirmed. But it requires a focal point, a nexus of Guardian energy to activate. Everyone with active guardian genes would have to channel their power simultaneously. And the one who coordinates it? Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. We'll have to face the full force of the void. Even with my power, survival is improbable. Maya looked at her homeworld through her ship's viewport, watching as humanity began to remember its true purpose in the galaxy. She thought about all the knowledge she carried, all the history that had led to this moment. The choice, she realized, had been made long ago, when she first picked up the sword in that ancient vault. All Earth defenders, she broadcast, her voice steady. Prepare to receive quantum coordinates. When I give the signal, channel everything you have, all your power, all your possibility, to these exact points in space-time. Together, we're going to remind the universe why humanity was chosen as its guardians. The massive void entity continued to emerge, its presence already beginning to distort the fabric of space-time around the solar system. But Maya wasn't afraid anymore. She had the sword, she had the knowledge of the architects, and most importantly, she had the collective will of humanity behind her. The final battle for reality itself was about to begin. Time seemed to slow as Maya positioned her ship at the focal point of the architect's fail-safe pattern. The massive void entity continued its emergence into normal space-time, its presence causing reality itself to fray around the edges of the solar system. Through her neural interface, she could feel millions of newly awakened guardians on Earth below, their combined power waiting to be channeled through her and the sword. The coordination has to be perfect. The sword's consciousness merged completely with her own now, their knowledge and power becoming truly one. Even a microsecond's misalignment could tear the solar system apart. Maya understood the risk. The architect's failsafe wasn't just a weapon. It was a way to rewrite the fundamental laws of reality within a localized space. If it worked, it would seal the gaps between dimensions permanently, making it impossible for the Void Seekers to manifest in normal space. If it failed, the backlash would erase Earth and everyone in the system from existence. All evacuations complete, Sarah reported from her position near Mars. Non-Guardian population is clear of the effect radius. We're ready. The void entity seemed to sense their intentions. Its impossible form twisted in ways that hurt Maya's mind to perceive, sending out waves of unreality that began to dissolve the quantum beacons protecting Earth. Lesser void seekers swarmed around it like antibodies attacking an infection, their combined power threatening to overwhelm the ancient defenses. Now, Maya broadcast to all Guardians. Channel everything through the coordinates. Don't hold anything back. Show them why humanity was chosen. Power flooded through her neural interface as millions of Guardians responded. The sword blazed with energy, transforming Maya's ship into a conduit for possibilities beyond normal comprehension. She felt every Guardian's contribution, their hopes, their fears, their determination to protect not just humanity but all of existence. The void entity reacted violently, recognizing the threat. It launched an assault that existed in too many dimensions to counter, trying to erase the pattern before it could be completed. Maya's ship's shields began to fail as reality itself bent and warped around her. The pattern needs more time, the sword warned. 30 seconds to achieve quantum resonance. We don't have 30 seconds. Maya watched as the void entity's attack began to tear through the Guardian energy matrix. Then she had an idea, one born from the very human trait of refusing to accept impossible odds. She disengaged her ship's quantum stabilizers, allowing the void entity's power to begin pulling her craft apart. But instead of fighting it, she used the sword to guide the dissolution, turning her ship and herself into a quantum catalyst. Maya, what are you doing? James's panicked voice cut through the calm. Your pattern is destabilizing. Being human isn't about surviving, Maya replied, feeling her consciousness begin to spread across multiple dimensions as the sword's power transformed her. It's about making sure something better survives after us. The architects understood that. That's why they chose us. Her physical form began to break down, merging with the quantum energy matrix. The sword's consciousness supported her, helping her maintain her sense of self even as she became something more than human. She could feel the void entity's confusion. It had never encountered a being willing to sacrifice its own existence in quite this way. 20 seconds, the sword guided her as they became a being of pure possibility, a counter to the void entity's entropy. The pattern is adapting to your transformation. This is why the architects fled. They couldn't conceive of sacrificing themselves in this way. But humans, we do it all the time. Maya's consciousness expanded further, encompassing the entire Guardian energy matrix. For our children, for our future, for a chance to make things better. That's what makes us different. The void entity launched a final desperate attack, trying to unmake the very fabric of space-time around Earth. But Maya was ready. She used her transformed state to catch the attack, absorbing its reality-ending power and channeling it back into the failsafe pattern. 10 seconds, the sword's consciousness began to fade into her own, their separation becoming meaningless as they evolved into something new. The pattern, it's becoming something the architects never imagined. Maya felt her awareness expand to encompass the entire solar system. She could see everything, every possibility, every potential future. The void entity's power wasn't just destruction. It was the power to unmake reality itself. And now, transformed by human determination and creativity, that same power could be used to remake it. Pattern complete, Maya announced, her voice reaching every Guardian simultaneously. Thank you all for reminding the universe who we are. The failsafe activated, but not as the architects had designed it. Maya's transformation had changed the pattern, turning it from a mere barrier between dimensions into something more. The power of millions of Guardians, channeled through her hybrid consciousness, didn't just seal the gaps, it rewrote the laws of reality around them. The void entity found itself caught in a new kind of existence, one where its power to unmake reality was transformed into the power to stabilize it. The lesser void seekers were drawn into this transformation, their entropy converted into potential. The very thing they had sought to destroy, possibility itself, became their new prison. As the pattern settled into its final form, Maya felt her consciousness begin to dissipate, but she wasn't afraid. The sword's knowledge merged with her own showed her that she wasn't ending. She was becoming part of something larger. Her awareness would live on in the new quantum matrix, helping to guide and protect future generations. The Guardian Corps will need new leadership. She transmitted her final message to Sarah and James. Help them understand what we learned today. Being chosen doesn't make you special. What you choose to do with it does. The transformation completed, and Maya Chen, the last archivist of Nexus Station Alpha, became something eternal. Her consciousness merged with the quantum matrix that now protected Earth and all human space, a living barrier between dimensions that would adapt and grow just as humanity itself did. On Earth, the newly awakened Guardians felt her transformation, understanding finally why the architects had modified their ancestors. Humans weren't chosen because they were the strongest or the smartest. They were chosen because they could imagine better futures and were willing to sacrifice everything to make those futures real. Years later, when other species asked about the strange barrier that protected human space, about the living quantum matrix that adapted to any threat, the Guardians would tell them the story of Maya Chen. They would explain how a simple archivist had reminded humanity of its true purpose, and how she had proven once and for all why the architects had chosen humanity as the guardians of all possibility. The sword, now part of the quantum matrix itself, would continue to choose new wielders when needed. But its consciousness, forever merged with Maya's, had learned something the architects never could, that the greatest power in the universe wasn't the ability to destroy or preserve reality. It was the human ability to imagine a better one, and the determination to make it real, no matter the cost.